Humanity Matters.
Hello, and welcome to Raised by Survivors. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan, here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. Today I have a very special guest with a fascinating story. Not too many people know that the Holocaust affected so many countries, over 20 countries, one of which was Greece. And over 50 or 60,000 Jews were exterminated who lived in Greece. They were exterminated in the camps after they were deported. Today I have a very special guest who is the daughter of two Holocaust survivors who were Greek Jews living in Thessaloniki.
Correct.
Thessaloniki. And I want to welcome Matilde Broder. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story today about both your parents and how they survived. But before I continue, I just want to point out that 93% of the Jews in Greece were eradicated. Now, both your parents ended up in Auschwitz. They were deported from Greece in 1942. And after liberation, they literally walked all the way to Paris where they met, right?
Exactly.
And the story continues, and I'll let Matilde tell us the rest of the story. And today you were brought here by a dear friend, Sandra Hoffman, who told me about your story and thought this would be a great idea for you to tell your parents' story so that we can record their incredible legacy of survival. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You were born actually in Argentina, correct?
Correct. I came here when I was 15.
When you were 15?
1966.
In 66?
Yeah.
Okay, so I came to the United States in 1963.
Oh.
There was, I think, a large influx of Holocaust survivors in the 60s, right? And
I
their
think
families.
so.
Yeah.
When other places weren't doing so well and they wanted to come to the growing country, especially
right.
my father always wanted to come here.
Where money was lining the streets, right?
Yeah, right. Right. But he always wanted to come to the United States. But my mother wanted to go to Argentina because she had the only surviving sister who had gone there to Buenos Aires, married with a child in 1936, right before the war.
Right.
They were taken.
Right. So in 1933, the National Socialist Party in Germany, the Nazi Party, became the leading party in the parliament, right? And Hitler, of course, was in charge. And that's when it became a dictatorship, a fascist country. But in 1936, you said? So 3 years into it.
Yeah, but...
How much did they know about Hitler at that time?
They had no idea what was going on.
Right.
And that's why they were so taken, not prepared what was happening.
Right.
And they just went to my aunt and an uncle with their son at 5 years old. They went to Argentina because they spoke Spanish, because we are Sephardic, originally from Spain, and they kept the Spanish language Ladino. So they wanted to go instead of coming to United States and they didn't speak English, they went to Argentina where they spoke Spanish.
So apparently a lot of Jews went to Argentina because they found it to be a land of opportunity as well.
Exactly. Argentina was a
thriving economy
country.
And a thriving country. And so
economic.
they welcomed the Jews into their country at that time.
Absolutely.
This is before World War II.
Even before, in the 1800s, they had a lot of immigrants from Russia, Poland. There were like about over 200,000. Almost 300,000 Jews when I was there.
In Argentina?
In Argentina.
Well,
and then now it's only like 100.
Right. And Argentina today is a big supporter of Israel and the Jewish community.
Because of the new president.
Right. So you have a Sephardic background, meaning that your family was expelled from Spain in 1492.
Correct.
And your family ended up in Greece and maybe some in Turkey, but in that general area for 500 years, that's where they lived. And they assimilated to the Greek culture.
Very assimilated. And
by the way, I love Greek food. I love the whole Greek culture. Yeah. We were just on a cruise recently. We went to Greece, and I love the Greek culture. I love the food. I love the music. I love the dance. Yeah. What do they call that dance that everybody does in weddings?
The ones that
exactly. I can hear the music in my head. It's a great culture. So Jews lived there for 500 years. They assimilated to this culture.
They were my grandparents were very well-to-do. They had property all over, and they cured. My grandfather and my mother's side cured furs for the furriers. Mm-hmm. They, before they give them to the furriers. So they had land all over, but they lived.
So your family was wealthy.
Very wealthy.
They were very successful Jews there, and
they didn't.
But things went bad. Things went bad. It was great life, 500 years, but things went bad when Hitler decided to take over most of Europe, right? In 1939, when he invaded Poland and France. And even before that, he took back Austria and Czechoslovakia. Yeah. But in 1942, the Nazi regime entered Greece. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, did they enter Greece proper, or did they have collaboration with the Greek government to deport the Jews?
I'm not sure exactly how they went in, but they had to have collaboration.
They did.
They did have to have collaboration, but I don't know exactly whether it was the community, the officials, because a lot of the churches and the Christian organization, the Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox, saved a lot of the Jewish families and Jewish kids. Actually, one of my cousin's mother, who lives here in Great Neck, her mother was taken by nuns in a nun school and made them. So the Catholic community helped them, but I don't know what officials.
Obviously, a small percentage, because 93% of the Jews in Greece were eradicated, right? They were killed.
Exactly.
And that's a big number.
And they were mostly in Salonika, Thessaloniki, which is Salonika in Spanish. And they were mostly there. That's why they were taken by train for a week to Auschwitz.
Salonika. Right, had the largest Jewish population in Greece.
In Greece, yes.
And
there were other small towns.
Villages.
Like my mother's town was an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Salonika.
Right.
And it was called Drama.
Right.
And that's where she lived. But she happened to be in Salonika to another property of my grandfather, and thus she was lucky enough to survive, because her siblings who stayed in Drama were taken by boat and sank the boat. And they never made it to the concentration camps. So my mother was lucky to be able to get.
So in Drama, Greece, your aunts.
My 2 aunts and 2 uncles.
And 2 uncles. What they did to eradicate the Jews there was to put them on a big boat.
And sink them.
And then sink the ship. I just wanted to take a minute for people to wrap their heads around this.
Yeah.
To talk about the level of cruelty and sadistic behavior by those anti-Semites, not just the Nazi regime, but also those that collaborated.
Well, exactly.
And I'm sure that it was a ruse, that they lied to the Jews that we're going to take you on a boat somewhere, right? But their intention was to kill the Jews on the boat by sinking the ship.
Exactly. And when I looked it up, I tried to trace some of the things that happened. They say that only 3 people in Drama survived, but then they took them to Treblanka, and it wasn't true, because there was no record of them being in a concentration camp. And my mother told me that that's what they did. So I believe my mother. I don't know.
There were so many incidents like this where it wasn't documented how many Jews were killed. So 6 million is just an estimation.
Exactly.
So we really don't know how many. However, we do know that 3/4 of all the Jews in all of Europe were eliminated. And 90% of all the Jewish children
Children
were killed.
I know.
This is the
Over a
horrific
million.
reality of when intolerance is not checked, when hate is not checked, and it leads to violence, and violence in the wrong hands, the hands of a government, can lead to atrocities like this. That's why we have to tell these stories. People have to know these stories.
And then people still say that it didn't happen.
The fact is that the Nazis themselves documented it.
Right.
And we have these numbers because they documented these numbers. They were very,
very systematic.
very systematic.
We have the numbers.
They had the numbers. They had the books, and they were accountants, like the accountant in Auschwitz, right?
Yeah.
We're going to look at that. So this here, this is a document from Auschwitz, right? A document
my father was there.
of your father's stay in. It's a certificate certifying that he was a prisoner there.
Samuel Castro.
Samuel Castro, that was his name. And so what were the defining moments in your mother's and your father's survival stories that depended on courage or luck or help from others? Which one would you say was
People always ask my mother, how did you survive?
Right.
She says she wanted to live.
Simple as that was the will to live, which I don't have here. Well, you have courage, you have luck, and you have help from others. But the will to live is a very powerful thing. Because when you have the will to live, you'll find a way to survive. Somehow, even if you're half dead.
Yeah.
Right? There are people who are literally hanging on a thread.
Yeah.
And thank God the following day they were liberated and somehow saved. But many of them, even after they were liberated, didn't make it out alive because they were fed food and they died from eating. Did you know that? They couldn't eat.
Well, my father was young, and he was taken to work in the factories in Germany, in the car factories, like BMW, and then also in soap factories. So he was strong and young, and they used those people for that reason. My mother was lucky because she was with her cousin who was much younger than her. They were both very pretty. And according to my mother, one of the Gestapos fell in love with her cousin. Mm-hmm. She was only 18 years old, or maybe less. But my mother said he fell in love, whichever you want to call it, and he kept her to shave people's head in the concentration camps so that they wouldn't kill her. And so she always took care of my mother and her brother who were there. They were in the barracks, but she was making sure that nothing would happen to them. One time she asked the Gestapo who was keeping her if he could erase my mother's number from being gassed, because they called different numbers to send them to be gassed, and she knew that was happening. And the Gestapo erased my mother's number, but my mother didn't know. She showed up at the line to be gassed, and when they saw in the list that her number wasn't there, they got so mad that they kicked my mother in the back naked, because they were naked on the road, and they left her in the snow.
In the snow, and they were naked.
They were naked.
The level of cruelty. I was there about 2 months ago in Auschwitz.
I can't go.
And I was walking the same grounds where these poor prisoners, poor Jews who suffered so greatly, who were in the hands of sadistic human beings who went above and beyond, who claimed that they were just following orders, but they went above and beyond. Let's be honest, right? They were as cruel can be, and I'm sure that they're burning in hell right now because of the level of cruelty that one person can do to another human being.
It's beyond imagination.
It's unthinkable.
Beyond.
Unthinkable, but so somehow they managed to survive, and they were liberated. I think it was around 1945.
Yes.
They were liberated, and somehow, how many people walked to Paris from Auschwitz?
I'm not sure, but there was a whole holding camp for each type of, each nationality.
Right?
They put all the Greeks together because they didn't speak they didn't speak Yiddish,
Right.
so they couldn't communicate with the Germans or anybody. So, but they put all the Greeks and they who spoke French. And my parents met in that holding camp in Paris. They got married.
But they ended up in Paris by
walking.
How long did it take for them to?
About a week.
About a week to walk.
They were expected to walk. Yeah.
And so there was groups of Jews who just literally just walked. They were
Walk, and
liberated.
people, but by the Americans.
How did they eat? Do you know where they
They
slept?
stopped in people's homes, and people would give
I
them
see.
food.
And they were people who were kind.
Oh, there were many people.
So there
who
were a lot of
kind,
people that
and
were
they
kind.
were afraid to do anything.
Right.
You know?
Of course.
But that's how they survived on the way there. And the French Jewish community was very, very good to my parents.
So they were in a holding camp in Paris, which was for the Greek nation, and so your parents met over there, right?
Over there, they didn't know each other, and they got married there. My brother was born there.
So how many years did they live in Paris?
2 years. My brother was in 1948. They wanted to go to Argentina, and they went by boat. But Evita and my aunt was begging Evita Perón to allow my parents to come in.
Her personally?
Her personally, because Evita was very good to the poor people and helped a lot of people and created a middle class in Argentina. She did good things, but she also took all the money from the Nazis in exchange for gold and allowed all the Nazis to come into Argentina. So she didn't want Jews to come. Right. And as a matter of fact, Evita, the show Evita shows exactly that. Then she took all, but she wouldn't allow my parents to come in. So my parents went to Paraguay, and they smuggled through Paraguay into Argentina.
I see.
With the help of the Jewish community, then sponsored them and them in.
And you were born in Argentina?
In 1951. And then in 1963, my father decided the economy was bad. And my mother had a fabric store, and she was a seamstress, a very good seamstress. And my father was a salesman, and he lost his job at 48, and he always wanted to come to the United States.
Right.
So he came in 1963 and applied for a residency, and we couldn't come until 1966 because it took so long for him.
So now I know you've seen the film, the documentary that I'm the subject of, and so I know what my parents went through. As I got older, I learned more about it, and I understood the PTSD that they had and how their values shaped who I am and who my brother is, right? So talk a little bit about, growing up with your surviving parents. What was it like? Were they overprotective? Did they teach you about gratitude? Was there any pressure to succeed? I mean, these are the things that I grew up with. What did you grow up with?
Well, first of all, Argentina was a beautiful place to grow up. Warm people, even though nobody believed me. They would ask me if I have horns when I would tell them I was Jewish.
And they asked that in Argentina.
In Argentina, yes. And I understand many, they do it here.
Of course.
Anyway, but in general, the people are wonderful, very warm, great opportunities when my parents went. So I was very happy. My father, once the economy went down, then he came. My father was very protective. He was overprotective, but my mother was very warm and very liberal.
Right.
She would let me go with all my friends. She was not protective.
Did you ever see any evidence of PTSD from what they went through?
My mother was nervous, but they made a lot of friends, and they would like to entertain and dance, the Greek dances.
So they moved on?
They moved on, but always telling everybody what they went
through, just like my parents.
Which it was good.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear it.
Right.
I didn't want to be Jewish in Argentina.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to hear all these terrible things that happened. But she would show her number to everybody who would come into her store.
You were almost, I wouldn't say totally embarrassed, but there was something embarrassing about it.
Yeah.
Right? That you were victims.
No, I wanted to be
victimized.
like everybody
You
else.
want to be like them. You didn't want to be in a position like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was but my mother was very nervous, but they move on. My father didn't work very hard here.
Yeah.
But they also made a good living here.
Well, you moved to the Bronx, right? They picked up how many kids?
It was only me and my brother.
So the two of you, and brought you to the Bronx.
To the Bronx.
And,
in a terrible...
And actually, in the film, I say that we moved to Brooklyn from Israel. However, we lived in the Bronx for 3 months. Do you remember the Bronx? Yeah, you do.
Do I remember? I was afraid to go around the corner.
1966, yeah.
Was burning. I went to Taft High School. I lived around the corner, and I was afraid to go around the corner to school. That's how bad it was. So 1 year later, when my father made a little money, we went to Forest Hills. Mm-hmm. We moved to Rego Park, and I went to Forest Hills High School and Queens College.
Today you brought some photographs, so let's show some of these things. If you want to just hand over to me a couple of things. What do you have?
This is my mom before the war. She used to make her own gowns.
This is your mom right here. Yeah. Before the war. Okay.
She used to.
And she lived in drama, Greece.
She did in drama, and she made her own clothes. And the photographer loved her clothes, so. He kept on taking pictures of her.
What else do you have?
Then I have my father before the war and his sister.
This is a great quality photograph here. Your father and his sister?
And the sister, Renee.
In 1933.
1933, Renee Castro. He was Samuel Castro and she's Renee.
Renee Castro.
That's my middle name. Mm-hmm. And these are my father's parents. They were taken to Auschwitz and killed right away.
Wow, and this is from the year 1900. You have Jacob and Dudun Castro. Ben Mayer. And this is in the year 1900. That's when my grandmother was born, in the year 1900.
In 1900. That was my father's... they were killed right when they got to Auschwitz.
They were killed right away?
Right away, because they were older.
Right. Not everybody was killed right away. Some were sent to work, and some...
The younger
depends
people,
on which side you went, on the right or the left.
Well, they used the younger people went to the right to work.
To work.
Or to experiment.
But how old was he? How old was he at that time?
My father was 24, 25, right. And he must have been maybe 30,
I see, and they consider that maybe too old at that time?
Or maybe they were older. I really don't know how old they were.
Right.
But the sister, my father's sister, was taken to Auschwitz to the female camp, and my father was in the male camp, and they would meet at night. And one time they caught him and they beat him up, and they killed her the following day, and he never saw her again.
Wow.
That was what happened. And this is my mother's sister who was taken on a boat, and her brother, one of her brothers. I have.
And this is taken. It says over here, 1935. Yeah, right? 1935, and her brother.
They were in drama when they took them on a boat and sank the boat. That picture, I have it in the Heritage Museum in Manhattan, representing the Greek Jews.
So this is a photograph of your father before he died.
And this is a book from drama.
So this is a book from drama. This is from
a prayer book
from the early from 1900, 1910, 1920.
Or 1800. It could be.
So this is a prayer book, a Jewish prayer book, but it's written in Hebrew, and they read Hebrew.
Oh yeah, they read Hebrew, of course. Right. They took Hebrew, Ladino, French, and Greek.
Now this is a remembrance book, or what?
The Greek.
In Yiddish, they call it a Yiskra book. It's a memorial book
of pictures were taken from the survivors here in New York who had photos from their families.
Right. And they got together and they put this book together, right?
Exactly.
And when was this book printed?
He was in
the 1960s?
No, in the 80s.
Oh, in the 80s.
It must have been 89 or maybe in 90. It was in a...
Now, it says over here, Auschwitz.
It's also another
It's another document
from Auschwitz.
From Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. And this was either your father's or your mother's? Or your father's? Okay. And so he kept these papers. So after they were liberated, he somehow managed to find these papers, or afterwards?
Yes. In 1962, we went from Argentina to Salonika because they had to prove that they were alive. And so they went through all the, in order to get compensation from the Nazis, they had to prove they were alive. And they went to their towns and they got all those certificates and some of those photos.
Now let's talk about you and your family. You have children, grandchildren?
I have 2 kids and 4 grandchildren.
Oh, how nice.
They're great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm very lucky.
Between me and my wife, we have 4 kids. We have 5 grandchildren.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't it wonderful?
It's wonderful.
That they didn't erase all the Greek Jews and somehow...
We survived.
You survived.
And you too.
That's right. We are the most resilient bunch, aren't we?
Exactly. We are.
They tried to kill us.
And we survived.
We won. Let's eat, right? Isn't that the old saying?
Yeah, that's great.
This was a wonderful discussion. I'm so grateful that you made the time and you were willing to talk about your family, your parents, and what they went through. And people should know what people can put other people through when there is a blind hate, right? Sometimes people just hate blindly. They don't even know why, but this is...
And now it's happening.
It's happening again. So again, we have, young people and even older people who are blindly hating based on fallacies, based on disinformation, based on lies. And this is what happened during the Nazi regime. It was all lies.
And people believed it.
People believed that Jews were not human, that they were either cockroaches or rats. Now, you would say, well, you have to be stupid to believe that, but it's crazy to understand that you have to wrap your head around this, that you can brainwash people to believe anything.
Anything.
If we allow ourselves, the society, let it happen again, we're learning nothing. Right?
And
we are destined and we are doomed to repeat history, as they say. However, because of podcasts like this and people like yourself who want to tell the story and educate people the truth, I think we are making an impact. And I am a very hopeful person. And we have Israel. We have our own country, our own nation.
Thank God for that. I was there in February, right before everything went crazy.
And I was there in December. It's always been crazy. It's such a beautiful country. It's always crazy there, but you know what? They live. You would never know that they're in war at any given moment.
It's a beautiful,
unless they run to the shelters. Other than that, they're eating falafel at the stand on the corner. So
people don't understand.
They don't understand that, first of all we want is peace. And all we want to do is help others. Who are the first, whenever there's an earthquake, even in South America,
they
who are the first
Israel.
to show up to help dig out the victims, right?
Exactly. I know. And always the biggest donors to all the biggest foundations, right?
Very generous and kind.
Absolutely.
Totally the opposite of what anti-Semitic tropes are all about.
Are saying, I know. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Matilde Broder. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I wish you only the best to you and your family. Too. Thank you so much. And the holidays are coming up, and I wish you a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank my listening guests as well today for joining us here on HMTV, here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan. Until next time.
If you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories in today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcasts here on HMTV. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations.
Humanity Matters.